fortunes seem to be finally turning in Pakistan's favour, a country still recovering from one of its worst economic crises. The United States is Islamabad's biggest market for exports, such as textiles, and Pakistan is now one of the few countries that have reached a trade deal with the US. And Islamabad is hailing the major drop of tariffs from 29% to 19%, less than major exporters like India, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. But it's not only the economic front. US President Donald Trump has amplified Pakistan's diplomatic stature by statements like this.
We stopped a lot of countries from war, India and Pakistan. We stopped a lot of countries.
Islamabad has promoted this narrative that it was Trump's mediation that halted its conflict with India in May. India is adamant that it was Pakistan that pleaded for a ceasefire after feeling the heat of Indian attacks.
No world leader asked us to stop the military operation against Pakistan.
New Delhi's stance has not deterred the US. Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir has visited the US twice in recent months. Trump has personally hosted him at the White House. Defense ties between the US and Pakistan are also regaining momentum. But relations are not only improving with the US. Currently, Islamabad is not facing hostilities from any major power. It's extending its relations with the US and Russia, as well as strengthening its partnership with what it calls its all-weather friend, China.
Pakistan, because it could not own the freedom struggle the way India inherited the freedom struggle and its ethos, right? And because it felt a certain weakness vis-a-vis India, it always leveraged its short-term benefits that it could provide due to its geography, due to the fact that it's a top-down military state which can generously offer various strategic dividends, be it to China or to US or to even Russia. So the short-term crunch factor in geopolitics does benefit Pakistan for sure. And I think Pakistan is very skillful in extracting the most out of it.
Pakistan has also been trying to strengthen regional alliances. That includes its relations with Turkey, Iran, and Bangladesh. But relations with India and Afghanistan remain tense. For years, Pakistan was framed as a country rife with a weak democracy, instability, militancy, or only of strategic utility. Pakistan is still grappling with these issues, but defying these challenges, it's treating a path to improve its position on the world stage.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in Daniel Markey. He's a senior fellow with the China and South Asia programs at the Stimson Centre. Welcome to you. Pakistan has ended up with a much lower US import tariff than the one India got slugged with. Is the country's export industry in a good enough position to make the most of this better deal?
Well, it's certainly welcome news in Pakistan, and I would add exceedingly unwelcome news in India, not just because of the 25% tariff that India is facing across the board, but also a 25% additional punitive tariff that India got slapped with because of its relations with Russia. So when you add those together, India faces steep or stiff headwinds in bringing goods into the United States, where Pakistan has a certain advantage. So this is a big surprise. Pakistan still faces enormous structural problems, education problems, all kinds of infrastructure problems. So it'll need to work quickly and do quite a lot to take full advantage of this. But it's a rare bit of good news for Pakistan, as your report pointed out.
You spoke to it a little about India's refusal to stop buying Russian oil and that prompting Trump to double the already high tariff imposed on it. Does Islamabad have anything to fear as it strengthens its relations with Moscow?
I don't think so. I think that the relationship between Pakistan and Russia is a relatively limited one. We shouldn't make too much of it. It's principally rhetorical. There are some purchases, certainly by Pakistan, and talk of other things that they might do in the future. And there is an indirect connection because they're both getting along quite well with China. But it's nothing like India's relationship with Russia. India is heavily dependent on the imports of Russian, not just oil, but in some ways, more importantly, of Russian defense equipment, particularly the kind of thing that it used against Pakistan in their last conflict back in May. So in many ways, India is much closer to Russia, and that has a long history to it.
Pakistan's geopolitics have always been complex for some time. How difficult a balancing act is it for Pakistan to try and balance improving ties with Russia, China and the US simultaneously?
Right. The main balancing act over the past 5 years or somewhat longer has been between the United States and China. And this was especially difficult for Pakistan when it was facing a Biden administration that saw China as a principal geopolitical challenger to the United States and the world, and saw those who were aligned with China as really problematic. And Pakistan found itself really grouped in that category. Now we have Donald Trump in place. He seems to be much more flexible in his understanding of global geopolitics and maybe rethinking the nature of the US-China relationship in ways that, at least for the moment, make him less critical of Pakistan and less likely to squeeze Pakistan because of its relationship with China. So that's another big change that we've seen just over the past 6 months, and a bit of a surprise to many of us who actually had anticipated that Donald Trump's second administration would be, if anything, more tough on China and keep Pakistan in the doghouse. So all of this has come as it's actually a pretty big shock.
Daniel Markey, Senior Fellow with the China and South Asia programs at the Stimson Centre. Great to get your input. Thank you.
Sure thing.